going on. Like, I was infuriated when people that I knew that I was friends with were trying to tell me that Hillary Clinton was a good choice. And that's the same choice. I'm like, look, I don't know if she's murdered people, but I know that I worry that she's murdered people. That's I really wonder. Like, this Seth Rich.
I know. First of all, just leave. You don't even need to go there. You know,
there's so many other things.
There's so many other things that we know for a fact.
The Clinton Foundation, for instance.
Dead. In Washington, D.C., the giant grocery chain has announced a ban on large bags. Great. Now where will I shop? Complains one large bag.
When Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld lock their comedic sniper scopes on Hillary Clinton, subtlety doesn't just die. It gets buried with full honors. This isn't a gentle political rib. It's an unrelenting roast that takes her decades of controversies, calculated power plays, and headline-making PR disasters, then spins them into a relentless carousel of razor-edged sarcasm. From cringe-inducing campaign stunts to her Olympic-level talent for dodging accountability, every misstep is skewered. The result is Hillary's political history served on a silver platter. Over-seasoned, flame-seared, and gleefully obliterated for the audience's entertainment.
Hillary would have been a good choice either. She was a terrible choice. She's a corrupt politician, one of the most unlikable people that's ever run for office. They were trying to get people to be supporting her just because she's a woman. This is going to be her history. Women, ladies, I stand with her. So there's all these women that has blind allegiance towards this career politician. Completely full of shit. She's been full of shit forever.
You look at Hillary. She uses the phrase, what was it? I wrote it down here. Handmaiden to the patriarchy, which I think she means she's bashing Monica Lewinsky. I'm not sure. But this only is appealing to an ever-shrinking circle of feminist women, the same who bow to the altar of trans men and keep silent when real women are victimized by really bad men. But again, it's another assigned opinion that's lazily presented, men against women. Whether it's race or gender, as long as you pit one group against the other, they won't look up at you. And this is how the Democrat Party survives, is they want everybody to fight each other.
Hillary Clinton has been dodging political accountability longer than most Americans have been dodging their student loans. And Joe Rogan wastes no time tearing into the absurd air of untouchability she seems to carry. Without breaking a sweat, he calls out the bizarre double standard that lets her political blunders be spun as seasoned experience. It's like watching someone burn down an entire kitchen and then get promoted to head fire safety instructor. Rogan paints her career as a highlight reel of strategic misfires neatly wrapped in self-righteous speeches, each followed by a miraculous image makeover. He likens her uncanny ability to bounce back from scandal to a video game character respawning after losing every life. Only in her case, she respawns with all the cheat codes still enabled and a fresh set of armor.
Of massive amounts of misinformation and disinformation as a part of a propaganda campaign.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has directed federal prosecutors to launch a grand jury investigation into members of the Obama administration over the 2016 Russia investigation.
A lot of them are guilty of it. Yeah. A lot of the people that are in that White House press conference, a lot of the organizations they work for, distributed absolute lies.
Total lies.
Tulsi Gabbard declassified documents that she says shows Obama administration officials manufactured intelligence to make it look like Russia interfered in the 2016 election.
How many of them during the whole Russiagate thing?
A lot of people think that the Russia thing was real.
Yeah, still.
I mean, the whole Steele dossier where it was like completely concocted.
Funded by the Clinton campaign.
Correct.
Greg Gutfeld followed Rogan's shots with a precision that felt less like stand-up comedy and more like a political autopsy. He didn't need to dig into dusty archives or obscure scandals. Hillary's record is a decades-long buffet of blunders served steaming hot. Gutfeld zeroed in on the irony of a woman who spent her entire adult life entrenched in politics, somehow managing to sell herself as an outsider, battling the establishment. Despite being the establishment since dial-up internet first screeched into existence. He mocked her debate performances, noting how she arrived with the kind of over-prepared smugness you'd expect from someone who truly believed every poll in her favor was gospel truth. It was the posture of a candidate so sure of victory that reality felt like an afterthought. A setup Gutfeld skewered without mercy.
They're going to try to ignore him for as long as they can because they're deathly afraid of him. And they're going to do to him what they did to me in the Democratic primary of 2020, which is pretend you don't exist. And then if people start noticing you, then they will try to smear and cancel and destroy him at all costs.
I remember what Hillary did to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and she's still standing.
Baseless smears that repeated over and over and over again by the propaganda media until people actually start to believe it, and it starts causing some real damage.
But on the bright side, Hillary didn't kill you.
No lies detected. Fact check true. You're an enemy of Hillary Clinton. You're still alive. That's a huge personal W.
Rogan circled back to hammer her on the glaring hypocrisy baked into her public persona. The Hillary who beams into the camera, preaching empathy, equality, and fairness, seems to evaporate the moment the red light turns off, replaced by a calculating political machine with more moving parts than a NASA shuttle and just as much insulation from the public. He roasted her for championing transparency while guarding her private email servers like they were the nuclear launch codes, locked up tighter than Fort Knox on a bad day. The baffling part, Rogan argued, isn't even the secrecy. It's her absolute inability to grasp why anyone would find it suspicious. His punchline landed like a sucker punch. She's less Madam President and more like an actress who auditioned for the hero in a spy thriller, but somehow ended up perfectly cast as the villain.
One is wild. This is Hillary Clinton in like 2008, and Hillary Clinton saying some wild MAGA type shit.
Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they...
She's a Republican.
If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back tax.
Gutfeld naturally couldn't resist torching her over the infamous 2016 election loss, a political blunder so massive it's still dissected like a cautionary tale in political science classes across the country. He highlighted how her campaign was so devoid of spark and vision that it transformed the once laughable notion of President Donald Trump from a reality TV punchline into an actual, undeniable reality. Everyone expected her to steamroll Trump with ease, yet she somehow managed to lose to a man who roasted his opponents like he was running an open mic night at the White House, complete with hecklers. Gutfeld mocked her endless post-election excuses, from Russian interference to fake news, describing it as a desperate political blame game so melodramatic it could easily pass for a low-budget Netflix drama with bad writing. And in a twisted way, I couldn't be prouder of the spectacle.
The Obamas have officially approved Kamala Harris to be the Democrat Party nominee, paving her way to become the first female president. Man, who do I have to kill to get that endorsement, said one woman.
Rogan dug deeper into Hillary's foreign policy record, which reads less like a stateswoman's resume and more like a travel itinerary for catastrophic decisions. From her vote supporting the Iraq War to the disaster in Libya, he joked that her version of spreading democracy looked suspiciously like a demolition project with patriotic branding slapped on top. According to Rogan, she approaches foreign policy like a tourist trying to improve a culture by bulldozing it, rebuilding it poorly, and then handing out glossy pamphlets about American values. The problem isn't just the mistakes, it's the unshakable confidence she exudes while making them, as if the wreckage is proof of her brilliance. Gutfeld then pivoted to her endless, cash-soaked speaking tours, where she charges astronomical fees just to tell audiences how lucky they are to hear how brilliant she is. He didn't hesitate to remind everyone how quickly she shifted into full-blown damage control mode when allegations against her husband exploded. Damage control that seemed aimed far more at preserving raw political power than at protecting women's dignity. Rogan wasn't about to let the Clinton Foundation escape scrutiny either, likening the cash flow during her tenure as Secretary of State to a luxury-grade political vending machine. Insert donation, receive influence, guaranteed, no refunds.
Foundation, for instance.
So, the Iraq War. I'm old enough, Joe, to remember when being for the Iraq War was a disqualifier in the Democratic primary. That's where I'm from. That's why she lost to Barack Obama the first goddamn time she ran.
Right.
And all of a sudden, we're supposed to, now people, like Joy Behar says, that was a long time ago. Forget about it. Why don't you go tell that to a soldier's, to a mother who's got a dead soldier?
He ridiculed how the foundation abruptly shut down most of its key operations the very moment she lost the election, making it appear as though the charity was nothing more than a convenient side hustle, while the real, lucrative business was maintaining access to political influence and power. By the time Gutfeld moved on to her meticulously scripted public appearances, he was portraying her as a walking, talking press release in human form. Every sentence she utters sounds as if it has been tested, polished, and approved by a committee of at least 12 political consultants, drained of all genuine authenticity, and injected with just enough calculated, artificial warmth to seem barely palatable to the public. The issue, he argued, is that people can instinctively sense the lack of sincerity, and no level of flawless delivery can disguise the fact that the message is coming from someone who has spent decades sheltered inside a bubble of political elitism and privilege. He went on to mock her every woman persona as one of the least believable performances since Hollywood awkwardly tried to make billionaires play broke underdogs in overly sentimental romantic comedies. The public's appetite for another Clinton campaign, he noted, is about as strong as their enthusiasm for reheated fast food, technically edible but utterly lacking in appeal, and certainly not something people are requesting. In his view, she has become the political equivalent of a rebooted movie franchise that no audience asked for, yet the studios insist on producing over and over again.
The conversation between James Comey.
110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information.
When James Comey testified about what he did and what they found with the Hillary Clinton emails, and then her version of it.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material.
She's just a straight liar. She deleted 33,000 emails.
I provided all my emails that could possibly be work-related.
Several thousand work-related emails that were not among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton.
When they rigged the DNC, they rigged the primaries so that Bernie Sanders was going to lose.
I thought using one device would be simpler.
She also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email.
She had her people into the DNC way in advance. That Donna Brazile book about it is mind.
Gutfeld delivered his final jabs with a knowing smirk, making it unmistakably clear that in the grand, overproduced theatre of American politics, Hillary Clinton's act has grown tired, painfully predictable, and far past its expiration date. Her once carefully packaged brand of relentless ambition wrapped in a cloak of moral superiority has worn thin to the point of transparency. Sure, she still has loyal fans in parts of the media who treat her like untouchable political royalty, but out in the real world, she's just another politician who lingered at the party long after the music stopped and the lights came on. Joe Rogan was already a flamethrower in the first part of the takedown, but in this continuation, he's cranking the nozzle wide open and roasting Hillary Clinton with the kind of sharp, unfiltered precision that makes seasoned political handlers break out in nervous hives. He's not simply pointing out the obvious, like how Hillary somehow managed to be less likable than a billionaire reality TV star during the 2016 election. He's dismantling the entire bizarre political theatre she's been staging for decades. From her overly curated, mechanical smiles that look suspiciously like she's reading from a hostage note, to her awkward, I'm just like you moments, Rogan paints the scenes as sad, almost pathetic attempts at relatability, like watching a bad magician pull a limp rabbit from a dusty hat, only for the rabbit to immediately file for workers' compensation. He skewers the absurd idea that decades in Washington could somehow still leave her utterly baffled by the concept of authenticity, as if she's been running on outdated political software, last updated sometime around the Clinton-Lewinsky era, with every bug still firmly in place.
One group against the other, they won't look up at you. And this is how the Democrat Party survives, is they want everybody to fight each other over their specific group rather than fight over an idea, because once you look at the ideas, you leave the party.
Right. And if you are in a group that they think should vote for Democrats and you stray away, Sandra, then you get this kind of treatment. I mean, does Hillary Clinton want to comment on Susie Wiles, who's the first female chief of staff?
Amen.
The very pro-mother administration that the Trump administration has put into place, that President Trump has hired all these young women to work for him who are doing a great job.
Then, with the practiced smoothness of a heavyweight fighter setting up for the knockout punch, Rogan shifts his aim toward her post-election behavior. Rather than exiting the stage with even a shred of grace, Hillary spent years rattling off a laundry list of excuses for her loss, so long it could easily double as one of those notoriously endless CVS receipts. Russians, Facebook memes, the FBI, the weather, nothing was too small or too absurd to make the cut. Rogan lays it all out with the bemused tone of a man recounting blurry Bigfoot sightings at a backyard barbecue. At some point, he quips, "If you lose to Donald Trump, who, by the way, is now the sitting president of the United States, you have to stop blaming cosmic forces and finally take a hard, honest look in the mirror." And just when it feels like the roast has reached its maximum burn level, Greg Gutfeld steps in with his trademark, relentless, rapid-fire mockery. If Rogan's style is tossing political opponents into an MMA cage and locking the door, Gutfeld's approach is more like shoving them into a high-speed blender and hitting the puree button until there's nothing left but pulp. He frames it as one of the most spectacularly catastrophic self-inflicted wounds in modern political history. The image he paints is vivid, a candidate so utterly convinced of her own inevitability that she believed mocking millions of everyday Americans on live television would somehow be a strategic masterstroke. It's the political equivalent of a chef insulting the customers before proudly serving them dangerously undercooked chicken and expecting rave reviews.
Well, it was confusing to me that you were saying, hey, if you want to vote for a real progressive, what about Jill Stein?
Yeah, if you vote for a party, here's a program you actually agree with, the Green New Deal.
Right.
So, and we know
everybody's like, no, you're throwing away your vote. Like, how are you throwing away your vote?
So we all know for a fact, because of the WikiLeaks emails, that Hillary Clinton had a thing called the Pied Piper strategy, which was she told her minions in the press, please prop up Donald Trump. Prop him up. Why did she want Donald Trump to be propped up? Because she wanted to run against Donald Trump, because she knew that she was so repulsive to most of the country, she needed someone who was more repulsive than her.
From there, he sets his sights squarely on the Clinton Foundation. With its reputation for blending charity work and political favor so seamlessly, it could serve as a masterclass in turning philanthropy into a national punchline. Gutfeld riffs on the idea that Hillary talks about public service the way a slick used car salesman brags about low mileage. It sounds noble, but you can't shake the feeling there's something suspiciously off under the hood. And then there's Hillary's legendary political timing, which Gutfeld tears apart like a cheap piñata at a kid's birthday party. Whether it's her painfully awkward attempts to reinvent herself every election cycle, or her uncanny ability to land on the wrong side of cultural moments until it's finally safe to flip-flop, he makes her sound like the human embodiment of Windows Vista, constantly updating, endlessly rebooting, yet somehow never improving in any meaningful way. Rogan and Gutfeld might have wildly different comedic deliveries, but in this tag team roast, they're a wrecking crew without mercy. Rogan swings with the brute force of calling out the absurdity of Hillary's carefully manufactured public image, leaving nothing but dust and broken illusions in his wake. Gutfeld then leans hard into Hillary's perpetual flirtation with yet another presidential run, describing it as the political equivalent of a horror movie sequel absolutely nobody requested. He paints an almost cinematic mental image of America collectively screaming, "Don't go in there!" While Hillary, armed with another ghost-written memoir, a fresh round of focus group-tested slogans, and a well-paid army of consultants, fumbles with the keys to open the door marked 2028.